Namaste and good morning. It's September 22nd, 2022, about 7:15 in the morning. And of course I'm out on my morning walk. Every morning it's something different, a walk, a run, a stroll, just as long as I get out. It's important to me for many reasons, obviously. One of which is just physical health, but the other is my mental health. If I don't get out in the morning, oh my gosh, I gotta go a little nuts during the day, especially right now. I'm winding down. I've got 1 week and 1 day of overtime left at work, and that makes me happy that it's coming to an end because I'm exhausted. Today, being the first day of autumn, one of the things I love about living in Maryland is the change of the seasons. It's just is very important to me to have the change of the seasons, and very apropos for a third stage goddess like myself to talk about that. Definitely women, postmenopausal women in the third stage of life, we understand change because we can't avoid it. It's always there, and we deal with it every day. We hear a lot about the physiological changes, of course, and they're very real and very important. But there's other changes as well. Today, I want to focus on pretty deep changes. Changes in desire, changes in goals, changes in how to chart your future, I guess, is what I'm looking at. I have had, as we know, we do develop our personalities and what we like at a pretty young age. I mean, seriously, by the time we hit our mid-teens, we pretty much know our likes and dislikes and what we want to do, and they may not manifest in actual activities or actions or things like that, and we may not even understand them. But as we grow older and we look back at our younger years, we realize, oh my gosh, it was there all along. And for me, that's especially true. And sometimes I find it interesting to think, wow, did I grow? Have I really changed as an adult? Of course I have. Of course I have. It's the reactions of the world around us and how we move through it. Good morning. That creates these changes, but you're still the same person. So one of the big things I do want to address about change today is how I envision my future. I think I have to say to myself, I am being true to myself as I proceed down a path and make decisions that may not really look like they were the original goal. But I've always been a very outdoor-oriented person. As long as I can remember, I've been outdoor-oriented. And even as a child, I always wanted to be outside. And I have some great memories, of all the things that I've done and the way I like to live my life. And as I got older, surprisingly, that love of the outdoors morphed into not only the love of being outdoors and the love of nature, but the love of physical activity. I saw early on in high school, was never interested in sports. Frankly, I'm still not. But I became very interested in hiking. I even joined the hiking club in high school, and I was not a joiner. And I've always loved riding my bicycle. And so through the years, these base interests have manifested in me becoming a runner, a daily runner, an ultra runner, a bicyclist. At the age of 58, I'm still out there on my bicycle, riding often on the road and fast. And so I've always done this. I've also always had an interest in gardening, which goes back to high school, where I opted to take a horticulture program through a technical school. And my first jobs were in horticulture, and I loved it. But as life comes along, things change that, and it moved on, and I no longer worked in that business. Good morning. Although I still think back, my favorite job was running the greenhouses at an herb farm. Oh my gosh, I can still smell it. Wonderful. And I still make sure that I always have an herb garden. And the basis or the foundation of my herb garden really is a scent garden. I like to be able to sit in my garden and brush up against the plants and have the different smells. I just had a huge cutting of a curry plant. Beautiful silver foliage, very delicate looking. I cut a bunch of it off and I have it in the kitchen. Oh, the smell, it's amazing. So, I digress. So where am I going with this discussion on change? Well, being who I am, one of the biggest impressions on me as a very young child was I would go see my great grandmother, my father's grandmother. She was in her 90s. And my family, father's side, hails from Roanoke, Virginia. And I went to visit her, and she had this little tiny bungalow or cottage, I don't know, bungalow on this little piece of land. And of course this is through the eyes of a child. I mean, she could have maybe she only had a tiny yard, but to me it seemed expansive. And she's very old and obviously was widowed and lived on her own in her 90s. And we would go visit her. And one of my favorite things about visiting her was that we would walk out the back door and she would feed the birds. She would call to the birds and they would come and she would feed the birds. And to me, that was the most incredible thing I'd ever experienced. And that has stuck with me my whole life. I still have letters. We used to write letters. I used to write letters to her. I still have a letter from her. I might have to pull that out today and look at it. But I think that set me up for thinking that's what I want to be. That's where I want to live. I want to live in a little country bungalow and be able to walk out and feed the birds when I'm an old lady. And so I have focused myself on trying to find a place like that. I married my first husband. Of course, I married him in June '89. And by Christmas of '89, I was expecting my first child. And then, of course, 3 quickly followed. Life barreled at me. Best years of my life. However, best years, raising children, having children. It's a shame we have to stop doing that. But, my ex-husband we just never shared that vision. We never had a shared vision. Red flag, huh? Maybe we should have talked about that a little bit more. And so we got the house. We bought the house from my dad and lived in beautiful Columbia, Maryland, a suburb of DC. And he is still in that house. When we divorced, even though it was the house I grew up in, I did not want that house. But I wanted him to have it because it was my children's childhood home. So of course I wanted him to have it, and I think it was a good decision because he's still there and I just don't see him ever going anywhere. Again, that's one of the problems in our marriage. So now here I am. 3 years ago, I bought that condo in Colombia. Beautiful condo, perfect location. I bought it as a great investment, and it is a great investment. But I bought it for several reasons. One, I worked about a mile from there. Two, everything I needed was right there. And three, I grew up in Colombia. I raised my family in Colombia. I had a friend base there. I had my running group there. I had my walks around the lake there. I had a lot there. And I was very happy. Now I'm married again. And we discussed all these dirty details before we got married. Where do we want to live? How do we want to invest? What do we imagine for our lives together? And we came to an agreement. Morning. And as you know, and I've mentioned, the wheels fell off when we were vandalized and terrorized and had to pack up and move within 2 weeks. So our plans of 2 years living there and etc. changed very quickly. And along with our changing plans, the economy changed and everything else. So here we are in a neighborhood I love, renting. And we have a contract on a house. The third contract, hopefully this one doesn't fall through. But this one has, everything seems to be good. We've done the inspections, we've negotiated, we've gone through the underwriting for the loan, and we're supposed to close on October 13th. So everything looks good. And I was thinking, and I'm looking forward to this so much. This house, it's a beautiful little, I shouldn't say little, it's not little. It's a good size. It's a brick house. It's a brick house with a stone foundation and fireplace and a little yard and a nice neighborhood and so many things that I have wanted. But it's in Paradise, which is a neighborhood in Catonsville, which is a suburb of Baltimore. And we're in Baltimore County. And I just find it interesting that here I am making this investment, this life investment, this house investment, and looking forward to it so much. But it's not that little bungalow in the foothills. But as life has it, now that I have my family and I have 4 kids and a mom and an ex-husband I have to keep track of, and and then of course my new husband, who is also invested in this area, we have such deep roots, we can't leave. So that's a change. So I have invested in this home. It may not be what I thought I wanted, but I am so excited, and I think this is perfect. It's what I want. But it is an eye-opener to see, things have morphed. And we still discuss the idea of buying property on the river. Good morning. We're still discussing the prospect of buying property off the Shenandoah in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Appalachians. I hope that we do. Market's bad for vacation. But I think it's the adult thought that I am living my dream, although it may not look like I thought it would. I am living what I want to live right now, in the present. And I'm happy. Change happens. Sometimes you don't even know you're going through it. Change happens, and we need to accept that change. That's my thought for the day. Thanks for listening. Peace.